Instacart helps you get beer and wine delivered in as fast as an hour. So, whether you need to fill the cooler for tailgate season or fill your glass for Pinot by the fire season, you can save time by getting fall sips delivered in just a few clicks. Visit instacart.com or download the app to get free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Additional terms apply. Must be 21 or over for alcohol delivery where available. Instacart. Add life to cart.
Hola, and welcome to Word to Your Mama. Word to Your Mama is a podcast about the life of a Latina creative, that's me, and the lives of my amazing multicultural tribe. A celebration of shared experiences navigating this dynamic world. There will be special guests, mad laughs, and absolutely no BS. Segments by the Supernatural Bear. That's my little man. He's 10 going on 40 because he's an old soul. But other than that, this podcast will be explicit. Please believe it. Now, why do I have a wide range of peeps on here? It's because I come from the music, art, and Web3 industries. Word to Your Mama comes out every Monday. In this episode, I finally have a convo with someone from my tribe, Tere Rapley. She is the Matriarchitect, the Black Moana sovereign storyteller. She is hip-hop, creative, and social impact royalty from Aotearoa, a.k.a. New Zealand. This is a long time coming. As I mentioned in the episode, when I started this, and I didn't know exactly what Word to Your Mama was going to be, but I had a list of people I definitely wanted to have combos with, that I wanted to share their story because it's very impactful. She was on that list from jump. So in this episode, you'll hear her discuss being present, reconnecting with herself, identity and self-acceptance, acknowledging her impact, and so much more. This is a very powerful conversation that we had earlier this year. And I just wanted to mention that, and I've told her, and I think I speak about it in the episode, that there are no accidents, right? There are none. So the fact that we are in each other's lives and we may not talk all the time, but when we talk, it's purposeful, it's intentional, and there's a realization, especially after this conversation, especially after all the conversations that we have, we're on like a similar frequency and we're living and experiencing these parallel journeys. If you guys have listened to this, if you guys know me, you know what I've been going through the past couple of years. And she's been going through similar stuff with our biological fathers. And the realization, and she talks about in this episode, and when I was editing, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember telling my therapist, maybe it was 2 years ago now, because I just, in December, it'll be a year since I met my biological for the first time ever, since birth, of course. And I remember maybe that's earlier that year or the year before, I told my therapist the breakthroughs that she's helping me with. And I was like, you really have instilled in me the realization that I have 50% of this stranger's DNA in me, that he is part, like, regardless of what I want to do or what I'm trying to do, the science, the data is that this person is a part of me. And she talks about that in her story and acknowledging that. And all of the conversations that I have these past 3 years in Word to Your Mama, with Word to Your Mama, have been amazing. But I think because of the levels of overlappage, having the conversation and re-listening to it again just kind of just gets me to a place where I'm excited that we're both healing, that we've healed to a point. We still have a little bit more to do. And then, she's 50. I'm going to be 50 next year. Like, there's no, it's too late. It's never that. It could be any time, any day. And it's, student till we die. It's evolve or become extinct. And we are evolving, and we are making our ancestors proud, and we are becoming the ancestors that we've known that we could be. So yes. Also, the song that she mentioned, she was like, she didn't know who it was, and I was doing research, and I was like, is it the same song that the Supernatural Bear and I love? So I confirmed it, and it is. And so I'll have a link in the show notes to the song on Spotify that's included in our guest hype song playlist. But also there is a link in the show notes to when General Levy does incredible live on the BBC Radio 1, and the amount of joy that's in this video, that's how I discovered it when I was looking for stuff on YouTube, and I was like, what's this? And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I would play it all the time. I played the YouTube. Of course, we would watch it, but just the audio from the YouTube in the car when I take the Supernatural Bear to class. So it's like a classic. So when I found out that it was hers, I was like, yeah, parallel lives. And then don't forget the penultimate Supernatural Bear Corner. So this, depending on when you're listening to this episode, there still might be a chance for you to DM us or email us some questions or comments for the Supernatural Bear, as his final episode, his special episode where he's going to be a special guest, is going to be dropping on his birthday, which is October 16th. So there is time. But this is, the last one. It's a song that he produced. And then for his episode of the Supernatural Bear Corner, it will be his farewells on that section. And even though he won't be doing new ones in future episodes, we'll always have his intro, and we'll always have something like one of his songs or something like that. So there's always a piece of the Supernatural Bear since he started this journey with me in September of 2020. So yes, let's get into it.
So I did a podcast in February 2022 for it. So it must have been in Feb 2022.
Wow, so it was a year. I was like not sure. So that was the last time that I think that we saw each other like this. And It was beautiful, powerful. You mentioned something that I had said. It made me cry. I don't know if I ever told you that. Just special. You're amazing. You're special. When Cheesy Macadams said, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a long time coming. There's a few people that I've had on here and had convos with that I mentioned to them, if I have never before mentioned, that when I wanted to do this in 2020, when I was like, I need an outlet. I just want to share these dope, amazing voices of people in my tribe that I love and admire. You were always on that initial list, and I have a copy of it on my notes. And I was like, Daddy, like for sure. So this is a long time coming. Let's start off. How are you doing? How have you been?
How am I doing? How have I been? I'm good. I'm good right now. I'm good in terms of, I feel like my journey has always been about presence, about being present in the moment. And you can say it, but actually being able to do it is a whole other thing. And it's not about ignoring your past or focusing on the future. It's actually what is happening in your life right now. And it's the holistic thing,
right?
Your body, spiritually, emotionally, all of it in that space. How can you be present in a moment and keep that as your normal? I think it's quite a difficult thing to achieve. So for me, I feel like I'm as present as I can be right now in my life. And in terms of everything else that's going on, there's always going to be things that are going to be going on and challenging and wonderful and it's part of life. So my answer is that I feel that I'm present right now.
That's good. And, I'm thinking maybe 80% of the people that are listening to this episode, whenever they might be listening to me, might realize that they are not present, because a lot of us aren't present, right? You might think about it, but are you present in practice? Like, really? And things happen as they should. I think we're having this conversation because I'm in this, and we'll have an off camera discussion to get into the stuff. But I'm in this place where I'm trying to be more present. That's my goal, because I was just going through the motions. Mm-hmm. And under a veil of keeping it 1,000, under a veil of doing things that from the outside looking in were accolades and high achieving things, but what's right here? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where am I at? Why am I doing it? Am I doing it for the right reason? Might have started that way, but like that presence, that being present, man, tell me about it. Like that is so important. I think so much of us have gotten away from it, and we would be in a better place if more of us were in that present.
Yeah. So it really, for me, it really started when lockdown happened, right? Because you're by yourself, or you're with your partner, or your family, and you are locked down. You have no choice. And I was fortunate enough to be able to work throughout of all the lockdown with my local government job. So I don't have too much to complain about lockdown. You know what I mean? Because I know it was hard for many people in my city. And, the moments where I felt like it was crazy time, like I was like, okay, I'm losing my mind. I've got to do something. And because we were told to stay inside the house, and it was like, not even to step outside the house. And we've got a backyard, like a huge backyard, but we didn't even go. And then I was like, what? Let's go in the backyard. And so there was one point where I was like, I took off my shoes and my socks, and I stood in the grass outside and just felt the grass underneath my feet, and just raised my head to the sun and felt the sun on my face. And between the sun on my face and feeling the grass and the dirt on my feet, I figured out how to try and reconnect myself back to me.
Right.
And so that's actually when the presence conversation, like I've talked about it lots. I've thrown it on my IG and my Facebook and stuff like that. I always end with be present. And that's because that was my goal. And I'm always trying to figure out those things when I throw something on social media. And that moment was when I finally clicked and understood that it wasn't having to go for those accolades. It wasn't having to go. And I don't anyway. And it doesn't matter if people know my name or not, or in terms of my work, not in terms of my music, but my day job and stuff, because I work really hard. But I was finding I wasn't getting any opportunities to go any further, and kept in this small, tiny box. And I was like, am I being present in everything that I'm doing? Like I know I'm working hard. And that moment between the sun on my face and my feet in the grass, something just happened.
Wow.
There was a moment of silence and peacefulness, and it hit me that I just needed to be grounded. Does it make sense?
No, it totally makes sense, right? Because that's what they say, ground yourself. Like when you're like losing it, ground yourself. Be barefoot, touch grass with your feet. If you can, I read somewhere where at least be on cement that's untreated, so it's earth. Do you know, something like that? So what I liked what you said is that you reconnected with yourself. But to do that, you had to reconnect with nature, right? Because nature is all of that shit. We're all of it, right? It's all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think I'm in this place, and I've been talking about a lot the past couple of days. Let me know if it resonates with you. The pandemic helped me to get into that place, right? For us, especially here in the States, Raka and I, we both work from home. We homeschool. But still, it was a lockdown. It was different for us, right? We were used to being around each other all the time, but it's with these external factors is another level. We made it through. We're good. Like you said, we were very fortunate that we didn't have to be in the day-to-day grind, and that adds a level of stress. And it was great. And I feel like we loved it. Like we thrived in it in a small way. And now we're, at least here in the States, and for us, it took us longer to step out into the world in another way again, right? And it's overwhelming for me, Teddy. I have to reconfigurate, figure out what, because it's different now from pre-pandemic. What is my energy output? What can I give out anymore? And how much recovery time do I need? It's different, right? It's this whole other thing. So I'm in this weird limbo place again. And I'm like, I need that reconnection to reconnect with myself because I think I've lost it. So have you been able to, from that moment of clarity that you had during the pandemic, have you been able to maintain it? Has it been difficult? Is it a practice?
It's been easier than I thought it would be. It's definitely a practice. People talk about reprioritizing things in their lives that matter and stuff, or that was like, I always think that I'm doing that, and I've always put my family first. It's just like a no-brainer, right? From the time when I stood in the grass to when I did that exhibition, a whole bunch of things had happened. And during the construction of that exhibition, so you can see these, can you see those things up here? So those were 4 toys that they're self-portraits that I made for my exhibition. And I've never made a toy before. I just thought, what do I want to do for an exhibition? So I was like, well, I love toys and comics. There's my comic collection behind me. And so I just thought, I'll just do a self-portrait of myself and what I think I would look like from a music video that I did of a Nina Simone song called For Woman back in the 90s. And so that's what they were based on. For me to do that exhibition the way that I did, to jump in to do whatever I wanted to do, was me getting back to me. I've served my family for, my eldest boy's 30 now. So I've served my family for over 30 years, and I could have done this stuff a long time ago, because all I know that with my mind, if I want to do something, I just have to set my mind to it and I'll just do it.
Right.
And so the exhibition was that. It ended up being that, because I've painted, I've used acrylic paints before, and I've done paintings and all sorts of things, but I'm not trained in any way. I've just done them because that's what I felt like creatively doing, and the toys were part of that. And the exhibition was that display of that reconnection to self again, that presence that I was thinking of, that I was talking about. And it made me look at my career, what I've been doing for the last 35 years, because my career is quite long. Right. Even though people go, but you look so young. I started really young, yo. And I didn't really think of the things that I achieved in 35 years as a career. They were things that I did to survive, to put a roof over my head and to put food into my children's bellies. So, and it was like, it's a career? So the fact that today is my last day of my day job, I've been working for local government for the last 6 years. Opportunities have already come my way where people understand the things that I've contributed to, I guess, society as a whole with all my work that I do, the different range of work that I do. And they're just like, they are telling me how important I am to the work that they're doing, to the change that they're looking to create, and that's quite overwhelming for me. Like, I sit in these meetings, I'm going, so you're talking to me? And they're like, no, they're talking to me. And I was like, okay, because I can jump across many different sectors and stuff, because that's what I've been doing the last 35 years. But I didn't think about it like that, right? So that's what I'm talking about, presence. Even when I'm being told that this thing that I've been doing for the last 35 years has this massive impact on these different things, in that conversation, being present in that conversation, usually I just sort of sit there and go, oh, that's nice, and just sort of go off with my day and not really think about it. But it's important to actually acknowledge when someone's acknowledging you. Right. For me, it was always be like, oh, that's really nice, but you don't have to really say anything. But switching on its head and actually accepting it and acknowledging it with them, and the joy that you can see that's on their face when they're saying it to you, is a whole other buzz. And so I've always been grateful for when people have said things like that to me. But now that I actually understand what it is that I bring to the table, I'm just like, damn, I'm not too bad.
Dope as fuck.
Took 50 years to figure that one out, but I'm here now. So
You're here now. You're here now. That's what I keep thinking. This is crazy. I've been thinking about this the past couple of 2 weeks. I was like, because I'm 49, you're only, a year ahead of me. And I was just like, yo, it's taking a long time for me to figure a lot of this shit out. Like, it's just hitting me now. And we're in a similar place. I think we're all on this crazy similar frequencies. Me and a lot of my friends were all in the similar age bracket. Dope ass women of color, creatives, doing so many things. And I totally connect with what you're like. I was just trying to survive. I was just doing what I want to do. That's a career. I've made an impact. Like, I've been talking about how, especially during this social media phase time, it's like, oh, you got to niche down. You got to da-da-da. Well, that's not me. That's not you. And that's not me. You've done we would have to be here for 3 hours or more to talk about all the shit that you have done. The titles alone is crazy. And we'll get into a second on how you've condensed into one amazing word that I want to know the origin of that. But the impact, you were just being you, authentically you. And I feel like you're in this place, and I'm trying to get more into that place. You've already stepped into yourself. There's things that we probably won't even touch upon. There's no time or there's no space to touch upon here. But the shit combined that we know and don't know of, trauma that we've been through collectively, the fact that we're here talking today is a fucking feat. It's a celebration. But the fact that we are now women of a certain age, it's not over for us. We're just starting new things. But the fact that people can recognize the gift of being multifaceted, multi-passionate, have been able, we were left in right brain. Don't say you're not, because you know you are, because I know I am now. Now I'm like, I can figure shit out over here. I can create shit over here. I need them both. We can do them and we can kill it, right? But the level that you just said, that now your people are giving you your flowers or giving you your props, and you not doing the thing that so many of us, and especially women of color, we're like, no, thanks. Like, we don't accept it. It's like, you accept it with grace. You appreciate it. You can understand. You're so fucking present that you understand in that moment how much joy and respect and stuff radiates from them because of you. And you are accepting it. And that is if you think about it, that is the nice thing to do. That is the respectful thing to do, right? Is to take it with grace and say thank you, acknowledge it, not to deny it, and not be like a dick about it. Do you know what I mean? But to just be like, thank you. I hear you. I see you, and I hear and I feel like that people listening to, or anyone watching or whatever, that is a place we all want to be in. Thank you so much for sharing that just in the short amount of time that we've been on, you've named that journey. You've said that journey, right? So let's get back to, when you filled out the form and I did research and knowing you, but also going deep in another way that you don't do with your friends and family. The Matriarchitect, right? Because you are just a couple of highlights just for the people. And I'll have all links to all her shit, right? But just a couple. Correct me if I'm wrong, you're like the first local born female rapper of New Zealand, MC. You are a musician, an artist, you were a manager, you're a reporter, you're an activist. So many different things, sub-genres, subtitles of that, right? Being a mom, taking care of families, survival, da-da-da. But Matriarchitect, where did that come from? That's perfect. Do you want to support original content that supports diverse voices? Why not support Word to Your Mama? You're listening to it right now. Become a patron. Head over to patreon.com/WTYM. There are 4 patron levels to choose from, including Good Looking Out, I'm Down, Hell Yeah, and Please Believe It. Benefits include patron shout-outs, exclusive patron-only content, and so much more. Head on over to patreon.com/WTYM to take your support to the next level. Gracias.
Many of us have heard of the devastating passing of Hurricane Fiona through Puerto Rico, but not many of us know of ways, or better yet, trustworthy ways to help and contribute to those in need. Fiona a través de los ojos de los niños is an NFT project featuring art made by children of the nonprofit school Flor de Loto in Ponce, Puerto Rico. Through their drawings, they've expressed their feelings and fears which they went through the hurricane. You can help these children, their school, families, and communities by minting one of their NFTs at helppr.xyz. You can also help by sending crypto directly to their wallet listed on the website, or do a donation through PayPal. The links can be found in the description, and to learn more about this initiative and how you can help, please visit helppr.xyz or via Twitter at helpprflm.
I did an interview with an artist here called Coco Solid. Please check her out. She also has a book out as well, and I love her. She's a next generation from me. She's the generation down. I think she's wonderful. She's a bee's knees. And she speaks your mind every time. She interviewed me. I was on a panel with her, and it was talking about equalizing my vocals, and it was about female identifying spaces in the music industry. And she knew that I was one of the first female rappers, or the first female rapper in Aotearoa. And so she got me on the panel to talk about those things. And there were other women on the panel too, and other female identifying people on the panel too. And she asked me what it was like to be a 14-year-old growing up in a rap group and nightclubs and stuff. And she thought that I'd have all these horror stories. And I said to her, I don't have horror stories about it. Actually, I was quick. I didn't think about it, but to a certain extent, people would call it growing up on the street. But I grew up in a very violent home, so I knew how to survive through that. You know what I mean? Right. When you're ducking fists and irons and vacuum cleaner pipes, you get quite good at navigating through life. And I didn't think about it like that until I was on this panel. And so the other people that were on the panel was talking about these horrible stories of, you know, abuse and in the industry. But because I came from an abusive background, industry was not abusive towards, because I didn't, it was just like, okay, that's how these fools roll, so I'll just move out of the way, you know what I mean? Yeah. That was at 14. So you can imagine how savvy I was by the time I was 20. And I said, and by the time I was 20, I bought my first house. And that was because I was making rap music. So they were looking at me like, what? And so they thought I'd maybe come from, and I said, no, I left home at 14 because I came from an abusive background. My mother was a high-functioning alcoholic. She had a boyfriend that would beat the hell out of her. I had to protect my sisters. I was looking after my newborn sister when she was 2 weeks old, and I was 9. So I said, that's how I got through it. And it wasn't like I couldn't sympathize with them, but it was just like, I've got a different story, and don't assume things, I guess, is the moral of the story here, right? If there's a campaign that's talking about Me Too and it's about the industry, I don't doubt that those things happen, but for me, it was a different buzz. Right. So I can't speak on that, right? So, and because I don't speak on it, doesn't mean that I don't support that campaign or whatever. It's just, it's not part of my journey. Right. And so Coco she put this brilliant panel together, and then she, maybe about a year or so later, she interviewed me, and she made me think about myself. I was like, what? The questions she asked me were so deep. They weren't fluffy questions. Right. It took me probably about a month to respond to her. She let me have the questions, and I responded by recording and transcribing. And then we shortened it down, and she refined it down, and she was the one actually calling Sovereign Storyteller first. And before I did my last show, well, my first show in 22 years, which was in 2021, I think it was, July 2021. So I haven't had, June 2021, I haven't had a solo show for 22 years. And I decided to do a 3-night theatre show in Wellington, part of a festival. And I was like, ooh, okay, just go. And from that interview, I decided that my title, I guess, would be Black Moana Sovereign Storyteller.
Sovereign Storyteller.
Black, because I'd recently discovered that I was Jamaican, and I know I look like this, but I didn't know, and we have a funny conversation about that, didn't we? From my Viking Nui or Cook Island side, my mum comes from 3 of the 15 islands within the Cook Islands. So that's my Moana part. And then Sovereign Storyteller, I was like, yes, actually, you're right. I am in control of the stories that I release out into the ether. And it comes not just through music, because I tell stories through visuals. I tell it through moving images. I tell it through paintings. I tell it through my toys. And so when I started thinking about the way that we express our narrative, I was just like, okay, that is actually what I do. And so when I released it, people came back to me and I got that coin to be attached to my name. And then I noticed that academics started using it and claiming it. And I thought, that's very interesting. They're not actually giving me any kudos for the fact that it came from me. Because if you if you Google it, it should come up with my name first. Because I'm the first one to coin Black Moana Sovereign Storyteller. And I was like, okay, so other people use this. Let me look for something else. And so I started thinking about it. And I started up my company, the Hefty Agency, a while ago. And it's an Indigenous Intelligence Design Agency. And I hadn't really thought about what my title would be in that role. And it's usually like director or CEO. And I was like, no, it's a played out. That's not me. So I started thinking about it. I was like, well, I am an architect to a certain extent because I'm a strategist in my day job. And so I do create the infrastructure for a shift, I guess, is my role. That's what I do. And architect came in, and then I was like, well, I'm a mama. And the way that I interact with life comes from the teachings of my mum, because she was my teacher, regardless of being a high-functioning alcoholic. And, that title alone is like sort of dumb for me, but it's the only way to explain to people what I was dealing with as a young woman, because I thought that the way that my mum was normal. So my lessons and the way that I would take in things was like, well, what was actually around me? And it was women, and it was strong women, and they were dealing with lots of things themselves, but they carried on and held themselves. So matriarch was just like, well, that makes sense, yo. I'm a matriarchitect. I'm a mama of 4 boys. I am a mama of 4 grandchildren. I have created my family. This is part of, like, they come from me. You know what I mean? This is my line. This is my reclamation. This is me. How I got disconnected from this idea is crazy, but we all know what that journey looks like. Decolonization. Right. So Matriarchitect is how that came about.
I love it. Kudos to that. When I was like, yes. For those that read it, they can immediately get it, right? Like, you're like, yes. No story needed. Like, got it. But to hear that full blown, like how you came around to that is gorgeous and it's beautiful. So we know little bits and pieces. I'll have links to, read more about your story. I wanted to really talk about identity. And I feel like that is something that the most recent guests that are on before you, been talking to, I've had the great fortune of meeting and adding to the tribe more indigenous creatives. And they are from this side of the world. So I think you have a very unique perspective. Also, with the part that you mentioned a little bit ago, that you recently found out that you're part Jamaican. Your mom's from, the Cook Islands, indigenous, you rep, you're always, it's all, how important it is to you? What does it mean to you? How does it define and really dictate how you move in this world?
Identity is a funny thing, I think. Because, part of my story, I would have said to you that people around the world have said to me that I'm African. And I grew up with a Pākehā. So Pākehā here is what I guess people call is European, but it's a little bit deeper than that. For me, Pākehā means yes, you are of a European descent, but you have a connection to who you are and sense of self. For me, that's what Pākehā means. When you talk about a white person can be any color. They're just devoid of understanding who they are, who the fuck they are. So, you know what I mean? A black person for me, black skin person can be white for me. They're just devoid of understanding their place. My father, I grew up with a white-skinned man who knew who he was, and he instilled values and morals within me that pertain to treating people the way that you would like to be treated. So when I went out into the world looking like this as a 14-year-old, I thought all people that looked like my dad were like him.
Yeah.
I went, whoa, no. So no.
Not at all.
Not at all. And so going into the world with this understanding that I was brought up by this Pākehā man who has a heart of gold, who absolutely treats people the way that he would like to be treated, right? And he doesn't stand for, kaka. He's just like, he won't stand for that stuff. He's pretty straight up about that too. He's just like, nah, that's not on. And so going out into the world with this attitude, and then I just, how I was with people. And even though when I was traveling overseas, people would say to me that I was African, I'd go, that's really nice, but my dad's this white guy that brought me up. And I just didn't believe it, And I know, I'll say it over and over again. People say to me, but you look Jamaican. And I go, I know now. But when I looked in the mirror, I just sort of saw my eyes and my nose and my mouth and my ears. I didn't really think about what I look like to somebody else. I thought I should look like my mum and my dad, and that's all it was. And so that was my identity. Right. The way that I carried myself in the world was the things that my mum and dad had taught me. You know what I mean? There was always food on the stove at my mum's house. So you always made sure that when people came over, there was food. You fed them. That was normal. You always offered food. You always treated people the way that you wanted to treat them. That's how I went through life. I had very simple values. There was nothing more to it than that. And then to finally meet my dad, my Jamaican dad, and find out about that, that moment itself, I had some friends that were here, some longtime friends, and I freaked out. I was crying, and they gave me a hug, and they were like, yay, she knows. This is like, and I didn't know what that would mean. I did stand in front of the mirror for about 10 minutes and just stare at myself and go, you do look Jamaican. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I hadn't equated the way that I looked to looking like anybody in particular, because I was just like my mum and my dad, and that was it. And so that in itself was a crazy journey to understand what it means to accept that you're from a place very far away from when you were brought up. That the way that you've been feeling things and the way that you react to things makes a lot more sense now that you have this grounding and coming from another place called Africa. So I haven't touched that land yet. I've been to Jamaica before I knew I was Jamaican, and it felt like it was home, but I was like, I'm not from here. Why does this feel so comfortable? You know what I mean? So, and it's all about that presence I was going back to. If I was allowing myself to be present when I was in Jamaica and understanding it, and I know it now. I can remember the smell of when I got off the plane, and there's a sweet botanical smell that just breezes through the air. And that was the first thing that made me think, oh, I'm home. Oh. But then I was like, I'm not in the Cook Islands. I'm in Jamaica. This makes no sense. And even when I saw people that look like me, I was like, but I don't look like them. You know what I mean? Yeah, like so many markers in my life going, you're Jamaican. You're Jamaican. And I was just like, no, I'm not. My dad's this Pākehā guy and my mum's this cook. It was about all of that. And so now at this day, today, when I think about my identity, and even on my Cook Island side, because I don't speak my mother's language fluently, because she did her best to smack it out of me, right? So that was a normal practice here. People would say to me, in my family, I'm not Cook Island enough. And I can only imagine what my Jamaican side would say to me. Right. But I'm like, fuck all of that and fuck all of y'all. And this is the reason why. the way that I carry myself and communicate, the way that I know how to treat other people. That menopause, my eyes are watering. So, you know, the way I'm not crying. Yeah. The way that I'm actually understanding people when they speak to me, the way that I translate things into a way that I understand it and can incorporate it into my life and weave it and be part of how I behave and practice. That actually is a language that my mum taught me that doesn't necessarily come through in this colonial version of us reclaiming our language and our culture. I actually have my culture instilled within me. It's printed in my DNA, regardless. And for me to be able to say that I am Jamaican or Cook Island and be comfortable with that, I had to come to that understanding. You see, because when I met my Jamaican father, we clicked like this. It was like we had never been apart. I only spent 11 days in total with him. By the time in my first 4 days that I spent when the first time I visited him in Seattle, he was crying. And my other siblings were like, Dad's hard. He doesn't cry. He was like all of this. He watched a documentary on me and it talked about my life, and he was crying and he was just like, you are a wonderful, beautiful woman. You are amazing. You've done all of the stuff. And I said, yeah. And I said to him, it's because I'm you and my mum. And I can tell because of the way that I am with you, I behave like you. Yeah. We're the same. It was freakish to spend 40 years with my lighter skinned siblings and, because we've all got different dads and not being around anyone that's any close to my skin color. To meet this man who is my sperm donor and behave like him was just like, we would just, And so I know that for my identity, people can get caught up of the colonized version of what it means to reclaim your identification, your identity, your culture, your language. And I think that's when people start saying negative stuff like that to people who are on that journey, they are looking for gaps and faults because they've reached this perfect journey. And so they're like, this is the way that you do it. But for me, do it any motherfucking way you want to do it. It is your choice. It is your personal choice. It is your journey. No one has the right to tell you what the fuck to do in it. You know what I mean? And so for me, I'm not fluent in my language. I can't even fucking understand patois. Can you imagine? My dad was talking about, it's like, can you put that back in English? Because I'm like, brr, I have no idea what you just said to me. You know what I mean? It was like, repeat it. It doesn't mean that I'm less Jamaican. That blood runs through me. Right. There is no denial in that space. So be who you need to be. When you need to be, just be authentic with what you're bringing to the table. Don't try and mash it up to be anything. Don't try to pretend that you can speak this. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Just be you. That's all I ask. Be yourself when you're on this journey and you will get there. And when you find that peace, you'll be just like me. Fuck all y'all. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was my journey. That's my journey.
I love that. I love that so much because I'm in the similar place. I've talked about it before where I'm learning, the language, and I don't gotta perfect it because what you just said, you can't take it away from me. I'm here. I'm in here. We in here. We up in here. Like, yes. And what's interesting to what you said, all of this about the identity. It's the identity, it's so leveled, right? And white supremacy, the patriarchy, so many levels. But it's interesting that your mom in the beginning, in certain ways, prepared you for the music industry. And then the father that raised you kind of didn't prepare you for... because you were a little bit like, oh, this is the representation of this, right? So it is fascinating to me that you've had that at the beginning, and then you were able to still navigate through the world. Then you find out you were in denial, that you looked, that people said, and it's this thing like, I don't know if I sent it to you. I'm not sure. There's that podcast, Family Secrets. And it has helped me in my journey reconnecting, finding all the stuff with my biological father, too. We're so similar. The parallels here are crazy. And that podcast helped me so much because the stories are people just talking about their family secrets and how there was a knowing unknowing. Like they never knew, but now looking back, what you did, you're like, oh yeah, like people said, people did it, but I was like, nah, like they kind of knew, like, yo, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It took time for you to get to that place. I'm so happy to hear that you reconnected with your father. I know you told me we had a discussion about that and all this stuff. And we need to, please believe it, this is going to be a clip. Like, this is going to be a clip because we need to hear that. We all need to hear that. Like, we are who we are. You can't take it. It's epigenetics. It's up in the DNA. It's so important. It's so important.
Yes.
Whether you want to learn it or not, you know, if it's important. Like I've had the 2 indigenous artists that I had on before you. For them, it's important to preserve it just because it was taken away in the history that they've had in Canada here, Turtle Island, right?
Yeah,
And so that's a certain way that they want to navigate, right? But on an individual basis, and you know, people are making the thing. I don't know if you've seen the videos. They're like, you want to learn your colonizer's language anyways? Like, there's levels, right? So anyways, okay.
Yes.
This is perfect time. Let's go into the questions and comments from the audience. Let me read this to you. It said, it was such a pleasure to have met a super OG in the New Zealand music scene. Her contributions to music and her entertainment community and pushing culture is such an inspiration. Such an amazing individual. I made a trip up to, and let me not butcher this, Aotearoa.
Aotearoa?
Aotearoa.
Aotearoa?
Aotearoa. Aotearoa.
Aotearoa.
Aotearoa. Aotearoa. I tried to phonetically spell it and it didn't work. Aotearoa. 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 Okay. I had made a trip up to Aotearoa to rock a show with Pia Tar with a surprise OG, Chaz Bojorquez, along with his dope wife, Christina. Chopping and kicking it on my first trip out there is one of the most amazing memories because it is the start of my art career. I was there chilling with the group of inspirational cats. That trip definitely shaped my career. The possibilities to make it as an artist was presented and made possible hanging and meeting Tere and everyone there. The Pacific Ocean was my connection since I was from Hawaii. Yo, mad love and aloha, Tere. Hawaii to LA to Aotearoa. Messing it up again. And back. One love, homie. Gee. And that is from previous Word to Your Mama guest, our fam, artist extraordinaire, Aaron Wose Martin.
Yes. Oh, Woski's beautiful. Beautiful. What a brother. Oh, man. That was such a... it was such an awesome time. That trip was incredible. That trip was just... well, yeah. I mean, it was just craziness, right? Like 42 artists. We pulled together 42 artists for the exhibition, and we came and we met you guys and Chaz and Aaron and Skit, right? We met Skit One, and we met so many people in LA. That whole journey was just so amazing, and I feel so privileged to have been part of it. Like, I didn't think about it. You know, obviously I did all the work behind the scenes. I was like, okay, we've got to get 42 artists from around the world and get their artworks here and blah. I mean, I've still got artworks here. There's a Jago piece, Mr. Jago piece just over there.
Dope.
You know, I mean, we've got them everywhere. So the privilege to be part of something like what was incredible. And Aaron's work there, I was just like, I was looking at an old video because he jumped up and did a freestyle that night too. You know, the vibe was just like, I just loved it. The thing for me was, our babies were there because I've got videos of our babies there, like they're standing behind the turntables. So they have no idea what was happening. Emery Douglas turned up to the opening of that exhibition. You know what I mean? Wow. We're just like, this is pretty awesome. I don't think anyone has done anything like that in our city before, you know? And so I was just like, hey, I was just putting it together because we thought it'd be a really cool idea. that's beautiful to hear that from Aaron.
And it's made a huge impact. And I remember when you came out, I first met you, and we had dinner at Chaz and Christina's old house. And that was magical too. That was a beautiful thing, you know, to see this amazing group of people that Raka had, you know, this experience all the way across the world. And for me to meet you and all of you and just be like immediately connected, immediately fam, immediate familia. Yeah. The next one, whatever happened to the song we did together? And this is from Much Love and Respect from another previous Word to Your Mama guest, Raka Taylor, 1/3 of Dilated Peoples.
Yeah, I've got to find the stems. Sorry, my bro. Hey, it wasn't on my computer, by the way, okay? It was on somebody else's computer, so I've got to get it off that computer. It's coming, my bro. We might have to redo your verse, though. Damn, thank you for reminding me.
I was like, yo, Rocky, you got any questions? He goes, ask her about whatever happened to her. I was like, I will. I can't wait to hear that. You have to get that out at some point, whenever it's possible. Okay,
correct.
So let's get into the not so rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
3 words to describe yourself.
Love. Light. Peace.
Love it. What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Received. Peace. Leave that motherfucker.
That's a bar across the cross levels, frequencies. Yes. Okay. Yes. Song to get you hyped when you need it.
Oh, song to get me hyped. Oh, I could get hyped to Incredible. It's a reggae song. I'd have to find the name of the artist, but it's called Incredible. It's got this bit that goes, Incredible. And if you find that, that's the song. Yeah, it's my walking song. It's my walk in the morning song. Yeah, I'm off. I'm out the door.
Love it. Okay, when you figure out the artist, send it to me. We will add it to the Word to Your Mama guest hype list song playlist. We'll add it to the other hundreds of songs we have on there. Over 4 hours worth, and we'll always have a link of that to the show notes. The final question is, what will be your legacy?
My legacy. My babies. It's my babies. I mean, yeah, they are my creation. Like I create all the time. I create all sorts of things all the time. And they might have their own legacy, and I don't really. That's all right. But it's important for me, for my babies to understand who they are because of where they've come from. And not just like, oh, yep, we're from the Cook Island. No, they will understand with the depths. They will go to those places that their grandmother and their mother's from to understand where they come from. And for my babies to understand that and have that knowledge and to be able to carry that on from generation to generation, that's it. That's all I want.
I love that. So Tere, please tell people, what you're working on, where they can find you. We'll have it in the show notes, but I think is it out now or it's coming out? You're some new music, all the things you want us to know about, please.
Okay. So when I did my show, I did an album called Daughter of a House Girl 2 years ago. I discovered a whole bunch of things and I decided to drop that album. This would have been my first album in 30 something years. I dropped it, and so I just put it aside and started working on another album, and that album was called Daily Incantations. And I'm only throwing stuff on IG at the moment because I'm just a bit busy. That's the second album. And then I finished that, and I started working on the third album, which is called Cleaning House. it's probably going to be 3 albums. My first album release is going to probably be a mixture of those 3.
Yeah.
And it'll take you through that journey, because that's actually what's been happening in my life. The Daughter of a House Girl is my reconnection to myself. Daily Incantations is about me finding my presence and my peace. And Cleansing House is getting rid of everything that doesn't serve me anymore and just moving it on. And then that'll come back to Daily Incantations, because those are the things that I need to practice, right? So IG is probably where you find that stuff that I'm releasing. And I just throw it up on there and I usually take it off. And it's just because when I make a song, and I've been writing a song every day this week, it's been full moon. So it's been a full moon writing week. I'll release it and I'll put it up on IG and like throw a 30 seconds or a minute up and then maybe take it down. And for me, that's just seeing how people are reacting to the song or not. Do they like it or not? And you know what I mean? And not that actually matters at the end of the day. Right. So, and then I'll just take it off if I feel like it. That's pretty much how I'm interacting and sharing my music right now. Of course, I have a label and stuff like that to release it, but I'm not in the space to release it like that right now. Right. But I'll get there. In terms of work, hey, I'm a free agent. I'm a strategist. I'm looking for work. Contract work anywhere.
Hire a girl. Hire a girl out here.
Yes, my resume is on my website. And so I'm just, getting into this whole role of what redundancy means, and I'm just looking for contract work and spending time with my babies and just living life really and being present. It's me.
Let me just say, to hear about, our private conversations about healing, to see you look amazing. There's another glow about you that's changed. I feel it and I see a change, a metamorphosis happening. And it's exciting. And we weren't able to see each other when you were out here for a hot second. And I wasn't able to make it to the other side of the country to see you. I'm hoping that we can make it happen to see each other soon. I think we will keep our private conversations going. And I just can't wait to give you a big, tight hug in person and do that exchange of energies, because I feel like we're on a similar journeys, and I really appreciate you making the time, coming on here, sharing your amazing, powerful story, being hella real as always, and really stepping in and taking, the flowers that you so fucking deserve. So thank you. Muchísimas gracias. And I'm excited to see you again in person.
Thank you, my sis. Thank you so much. Your energy, that's why I'm here for it every day. So thank you so much. Me?
Thank you.
And now, introducing
the Supernatural Bear Corner.
Supernatural Bear. Shoo-ba-doo. Yeah. There you have it, folks. Episode 143, A Word to Your Mama with Tere. What did I tell you? What did I tell you in the intro? Didn't I tell you? Yes. The amount of bars dropped in this episode, I hope you picked them up. I hope you had enough room because they were minty and plenty. Minty? There were many and plenty. Minty and plenty. Good times. Good times. I kill myself sometimes. But you know what I'm spraying. You know what I'm spraying. And then what about the second to last Supernatural Bear Corner? He's like, yeah, I got a song. Do you want to drop that? I was like, yeah, for sure. Let me hear it. If you've been a longtime listener of this podcast, you know that he's dropped songs before that he's produced, but they've been more cinematic because they're for his Transformer projects, right? His shows, his movies and stuff like that. And this is a little bit different. This is something that he created that it's kind of like a bar scene. It's called Macadams. And so he's like, yeah, so I had to be a little bit more danceable. Yeah. So great. And it's not just because he's my human that I grew in my belly. It's like legitimately good. And I was like, is that original? Because he plays the piano and stuff like that. So I was like, is that original beats? And he's like, it's kind of a mixture of both. I was like, wow, it's just, when you see them grow. And so anyways, don't forget, there still might be time to DM us or email us to get in those questions and comments about the Supernatural Bear. And, if you listen to this from jump or even a year, you've heard his growth and, from anything from songs to words of wisdom from an old soul that he is. So yeah, I'm better with it though. Let me tell you, I'm good with it. It feels right. It is perfect that it's dropping on his born day on the 16th of October. And it makes sense. And so I'm really excited to record the special episode with him being the guest. And I already have some amazing questions and comments from the audience. I'll be posting that more on social media. So like I said, get them in. And you know the drill. If you want to buy something from our online store, check it out. Become a patron. You heard the promo. You could also buy us a whiskey via buy us a coffee. And something that's free. Two ways to support that's free. You could leave us a review either on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to the podcast. Leave us a review so more people can check us out and, find out about us. And the second one is tell your folks, tell your peeps, and tell your friends. Super simple. Let's get this out because in the spectrum of so many Latinx podcasts, if you have been listening to those, you know that this is different. I've been listening to podcasts since early 2000s. And I know that this is different because I am informed and it will never leave my body and soul. Hip hop, music. I'm into so many different things. So the vast majority of people that I have in here are dope as hell because they're from so many different walks of life. So, and I keep it real. I don't know how else to keep it. That's really how it goes down. So yes, so let's spread the word and let them know that this is just your average, everyday, podcast of someone talking to their homies. This is, it's just, you saw today with Tere. This is what I'm talking about. And it's not just people my age. It's not just Gen X. I mean, if you go back, I talk to people that are early millennials, Gen Zs, and Gen Alphas. I mean, the Supernatural Bear. I mean, he believes that he's Gen Alpha. I don't know what the chronological order of stuff is, but you know what I'm saying. So anyways, yes. All right. So as always, we reap. Word to Your Mama is owned and produced by Ritzy P. Intro beat produced by Nico Beats. If you want to know more, you want to email us, you want to get the media kit, go head over to wordtoyourmama.com. Word to Your Mama is now part of the Latina Podcasters Network. And as always, Word to Your Mama is brought to you by RitzyPeriwinkle.com. Make sure to follow Word to Your Mama on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you stream your podcast, or download the Latina Podcasters Network app.